So super happy to have you on here for this Twitter space. And again, huge thanks to BAF for organizing this. I'll kind of just dive right into it. I mean, this entire Web3 space is really big, and a lot of people have gotten into this, this wormhole of the Web3 space in many different ways. Can you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you really just fell into this rabbit hole?
Yes, sir. It started off like I guess like everybody, just buying some tokens, and then learning about them. I guess later on, I guess my haha moment was I studied economics, economics is a bunch of like made up models with random variables. And also if you look into like monetary policies and like how historically we've dealt with money and value overall. It's like when I heard about Bitcoin, it's like, okay, this makes sense, like, theoretically and academically. So I was just interested in that. And that was back in Italy. I'm Italian originally. And then I moved to the United States actually to go to UCI. And that's how, I really started to like get involved. I went to like a few meetups back in Milan, but like, the community was not really there, to be honest. But when I moved to the US, and again, that's why, I said like blockchain at UCI, it was great for me because like I saw this like thriving community of students and like industry people coming together and just like willing to educate each other. It was kind of like back in like pure times where like, it wasn't like really, pay to play. People would just like educate each other. And it was like very, 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 very like core, active community. So I really like that side of things. And then, yeah, I just got involved with clubs. Then I did my master at UCSB. So that I got involved in the community there, ran the club there for like a year. And at the same time, co-founded BAF, actually. That's like I come from BAF, actually, and ran it with my friend Karen, who now works at Near Fund, and just got in. It was back when this is a previous bear market where nobody was really doing anything, and there was no activity on chain. Pretty much, prices fell. And we were trying, to do education at the university level. It was very hard, but at the same time, it was, a lot of like real, like, long-term thinkers in the industry and like organizations and companies that are building for the long term, acknowledge what we were doing. Also because like we were, really willing to put in a lot of work. And that's what really, I guess, like as a suggestion to everybody is like, you gotta put in the work at first, especially in this industry, because there's a lot of opportunities. You just gotta go after them, I guess. Yeah, so we built and scaled BAF, and it was pretty great. And then I just started working with Algorand, and I really like the people, really like the tech. And yeah, then I joined, and after a few months, we got a new CEO. We reprioritized verticals and strategy and overall. And I mean, gaming has always been a passion of mine, and just like being a gamer ever since. So yeah, that's But when two passions come together, and you can make a job out of it, it was great. And like now I'm very excited with like everything that is going on in our ecosystem. A lot of great projects, a lot of great devs. So yeah, very, very exciting.
Oh, that's actually awesome to hear. And I mean, it's great that you're basically a blockchain at UCL alumni as well.
Yes,
That's
sir.
I love that so much. That's great. So, I'm curious, like, how was the ecosystem back then? You said it was just like mostly education. What did that look like? Was it like a bunch of meetups and stuff? Or I'm curious because I only kind of know a little bit about what, our alumni, the previous founders have told us, but I'm always curious to kind of hear how past experiences were.
Yeah, man, it was back when it was like, like a few Costco pizzas and some soda and like, white paper circles. And that was also back then when like a bunch of like these layer ones were launching. There was also like a lot of bad narratives back then, the whole like, supply chain healthcare, whatever, and just people launching a token just with these two like buzzwords. But it was definitely very very exciting also because we started seeing like the first actually like real world like application and use cases. And actually people building application, because in the previous cycle it was just about like the whole money narrative and the whole tokens and just self custody and whatever. Then that wave, when I really got involved, we started talking about like applications and whatnot, and it was way more inclusive, I gotta say. I was at Consensus a few weeks back, and like great conference, not as many people as last year. I guess it makes sense for the bear market. But the fact that Stroke was like a ticket was like several $100s, and it's like that doesn't make the industry very accessible, right? So that's I guess we grew and scaled as an industry, so that makes sense. But back then it was like free conferences, especially for students and whatnot. Free tickets, always like educational meetups. Just people coming together and sharing ideas, and it was also way less tribal because like everybody was still like figuring out where everything was going. I feel like now we're in a very more tribalistic scenario. But yeah, so that's I guess like what I can share, and but it was exciting times.
That's pretty cool to hear, especially you saying that you were an economics major. Kind of rethinking value and what it means within like economies has been probably one of the most interesting things to come out of crypto. But transitioning, or how did you transition from uh, economics and that kind of value in crypto to something as niche as Web3 gaming?
Oh man, great question. Actually, and this you bring up a great point. Actually, the real sweet spot for the intersection between Web3 and gaming is actually around economics and like value. Especially when we talk about like in-game economies, you want to make sure like these are like complex systems to design. It's not just like, oh, you do an ICO and 20% goes to the founder, 15 to the investors and whatnot, and then the rest we either drop to the community or other things like that. Like you gotta think in the long term, and you gotta think in terms of like adrenaline loopholes. Like how do you keep people engaged? How do you keep people retained within a certain game, right? So and also like this like in the Web2 space, right? They're like games have traditional games have a lot of monetary value. I was reading the other day, like Roblox sold almost like 800 millions of their token, which is not a cryptocurrency. It's literally like in-game points. But like that's a lot of money. So like you have to be able to like the profit when we transition in crypto, like you have to be able to properly design such incentive structures, and that's something I geek a lot about. And what we've seen so far in the industry, I don't think it's really the sweet spot. We've seen a lot of like failed attempts and like just bad models overall. And it also goes into the core technology, right? Like something like game has to be like very cheap, very fast. We're talking about like microtransactions. To think about like opening loot boxes, right? So there's no way you can do something like that on like an infrastructure that is like slow and expensive, and that's why Algorand makes a lot of sense for me.
So in-game economy is definitely interesting. But what was that? Was that your transition? Looking at, I don't know, the economy on World of Warfare and reimagining ownership and custody?
Yeah. Yeah, also, I mean, I'm also like a, very, the big gamer all my life, but also, like my job is like, I'm not a game developer. I'm not a publisher. My job is to make sure that like games as projects on building on Algorand are successful. And that's like all across, the industry. That's how like, people working at these, protocols where we're fostering an ecosystem. And when there's like multiple projects, you have to make sure like to align on strategy and making sure that like you're attracting the right people and the right builders. So that's, I would say that's like the majority of my work. And then assisting these projects in like, which is also the cool part where again I geek out on is like assisting these projects is like succeeding and like make sure like what, the roadmap makes sense. Again, the tokenomics makes sense and all of that stuff. It's not just about building a cool game.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I mean, you touched on a lot of different points here on, just not about building a cool game, it's about economy, about these other, various different things. So, I mean, tell us a bit about Algorand itself, right? What makes Algorand so good for gaming, in general, as opposed to other things out there?
Yes, sir. So, well, as I said, like as an infrastructure, it's faster and cheaper. Like finality, for example, on Algorand is sub 4 seconds. It means that like transactions and blocks are finalized within 4 seconds. And I actually, I might argue that for games themselves, this might not even be good enough, right? Because gamers are like, I always say these are like the pickiest users you can ever get. But at least like, we get there, and definitely like there are ways to like even cut that on the user experience side. So, fast finality and actual finality is something that is imperative, especially when you build like large scale applications, which include games. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's like, news of the last couple of hours, but Ethereum Beacon Chain stopped validating blocks for like, I think it was an hour or so. It was a problem with like one of the clients and whatnot. I think they solved it. But, imagine like if you build like like a AAA game on something like this, and all of a sudden people where you have like, hundreds of millions of value locks in this game. And all of a sudden, like they cannot like transact this value anymore. And when I say value, I mean assets, in-game assets, NFTs, and tokens, and whatnot. So that's one side of Algorand. The other side is, of course, like how cheap it is. A transaction on Algorand, a transaction fee on Algorand is a fraction of a penny, which makes, of course, it makes it great, not only for games, but also, as I was saying before, for like microtransactions, right? One of the strongest genres in gaming right now is like hybrid casual and hyper casual games, like literally games that like our parents would play. I know my mom does play them a lot on her phone, right? And like this is like actually like the bulk of users. AAA games, sure, but like some of the mid-core categories, they actually don't have like those many users. And like especially in terms of like how you can monetize out of these users. So that's of course very important, as I was saying. Like it has to be cheap for everybody, and it has to be inclusive if you want to reach that scale, which is the only scale that makes sense for games, right? For like Web3 games, like if we're building Web3 games that cannot scale because the core protocol doesn't scale, then it doesn't make sense. And we're very into the rabbit hole, but like for the average gamer, this wouldn't make sense, and they would just not use the product. So that's another thing. And on for this, just how the Algorand consensus work and how the protocol was designed. But so far we haven't had like any downtime. The blockchain has never forked, which is, even on that side, it's very important because if all of a sudden you have a copy of the same asset that live on two different branches of the chain, then that is a problem and it trickles to the user experience level. So to me, Algorand makes a lot of sense as an infrastructure on top of which building games. Yeah, that's in a nutshell. And of course, there's much more to add to it, how we do smart contracts and the SDKs we have and all of that stuff. But in a nutshell, and I hope I wasn't too long.
Pulling on the thread a little bit of Algorand architecture, because personally, this has been one of my biggest questions, especially regarding Web3 gaming. So I'll ask you a multifaceted question, if that's okay. The first thing is obviously that if we are to imagine complete on-chain settlement of all in-game transactions, then obviously blockchain like congestion and other transactions competing for block space isn't ideal. So does kind of Algorand architecture subvert that a little bit? And the second follow up to that is AAA games who want to get on. I'll let you talk about SDKs a little bit, but for AAA gaming companies that want to get on learning, uh, you know, new languages and trying to build a game using those languages is quite difficult. So yeah, how does Algorand's architecture help with that as well?
Great question. Let me start from the first one. So Algorand currently can process up to 6,000 transactions per second, which is fairly enough. Even for micropayments or like large, large mass of transactions. So the throughput is there. And this is like actually this stat was recently upgraded thanks to like an upgrade to the protocol. So we can even improve on that side. There is, an argument to be made around like customizable layer twos. I know, of course, that's a big narrative on Ethereum. It's needed on Ethereum, of course, already now because there's no way like the current throughput of ETH can support even like, just if you look like an NFTs or DeFi. So even less on gaming, of course. But there's also an argument to be made, even on like a very, very highly performing blockchain like Algorand to be had around like layer twos and more, in my opinion, around like customizable layer twos. So like layer twos that you can customize for like certain needs. And optimize for certain like use cases. Say like you want to optimize it for like processing like high like large batches of transactions in like sub 1 second. So that could be an argument to be made. But as for now, Algorand already scales and is already well suited as an infrastructure. On the second question, this was the second question around like the SDKs and just infrastructure offerings.
Yeah, like so. I was trying out a personal project, and I realized that building a game on EVM is quite difficult, and because we want to use Unity and we want to use what Unity offers and the Unity engine to an Unreal Engine to like build a game, and so I I don't know. I feel like functionality with EVM chains is quite difficult. So that's what I was wondering whether I like kind of what Algorand did differently.
Well, my good sir, you are in luck because we just launched Algorand Unity SDK just a couple of months ago. And actually, this is part of like a larger initiative that Unity launched, which they call decentralized. So if you go on the Unity Asset Store and look under this decentralized section, you can find the Algorand Unity SDK. It's a full. There's a tutorial as well, but it's a set of tools mainly to like leverage some of like the core primitives of Algorand and plug them into your Unity game. So things, such as like creating wallets, creating tokens, creating NFTs and whatnot. We're iterating, so we're going to be releasing more features as well. And like, Algorand has different NFT standards. We're also newly released AlgoKit, which is a new development toolkit overall for like development on Algorand. Is not just gaming related. But as we release new features, also like the Unity SDK will be updated. We're also working on Unreal SDK. Unfortunately, got a little slowed down exactly because we just released new features. So we had to, just update a bunch of the old work. But so yeah, in short, there is an SDK there, and we actually really believe in like how crucial this is, right? To empower game developers and traditional developers overall. It's like it's not just like, oh, we have a blockchain, it works. It's like, okay, but like I'm an indie game dev. I maybe heard about Ethereum once. I think Web3 is cool. How can I build on top of it though? And you have to have this these sets of tools. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So we're working hard on it, and I'm actually very excited about this Unity SDK.
Yeah, it's super cool that you have all this support for developers and kind of diving a little bit more into the technical aspect of things. State management in games is a really complex issue, especially for kind of a decentralized gaming environment. So stuff like player positions, in-game assets, scores, other stuff in general. So I mean, like, how does Algorand kind of handle this problem of maintaining state within like a decentralized gaming environment? Do you guys have some specific architecture that helps with managing the state of the gaming environment, or can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. That's actually a great question. I think honestly, this is like is an application choice, in the sense that like it's up to the game to like decide how what to put on a blockchain. Say like you upgrade your character. There's a leaderboard that changes. It's up to the game to put it on chain. The one thing I want to say is like unlike many other chains, pretty much the majority of other chains. Where NFTs are like smart contracts. On Algorand, they're actually assets at the first layer, which makes it more, way easy to transact. We also have atomic swaps at the first layer, and it makes it like way easier and way cheaper, especially as you're building a game and you want to have like a bunch of non-fungible assets in the game. But again, like going to tackle precisely your question, it really depends on like the choices. That a game developer wants to make, and I would argue actually that like it's not necessarily a good idea to put like an entire game on chain. It really depends on like what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to like reward your users? Are you trying to like give ownership to your users, like real ownership? Are you want to try to like reward them or like maybe enable some governance stuff around like decision making on like maybe the story of the game, or the features that the core team should release. So it really depends like what you're trying to achieve. I think like the whole like fully on-chain games narrative is like sure, but like you actually need it. Some things are like just better to be run like not on a blockchain overall, I guess.
That's actually a very nice segue, because I get there are multiple parties on or multiple differing sides on exactly how Web3 gaming should work. Some campaign for, hey, look, we just want wearables that we own and that we can transfer between gaming ecosystems, and there are others that say we don't like how like games are played on centralized servers. They should be completely on decentralized ledger tech. Where do you stand on that spectrum, and what do you believe are the biggest things that Web3 and decentralized technology brings to games?
That's that's a like multi-billion-dollar question that like the industry, I guess, is trying to figure out. Let me give you my perspective, I guess. I think like I touched upon like AAA games. I think like there's a bunch of teams that are like building again like fully on-chain AAA games. Sure, great. It is not the first step in bridging the gap between the two industries. I think the first step is again like as I said, like my reward, like direct rewards to users, micropayments. I think like we have a great use case in casual games because the learning curve is way shorter in terms of like how we onboard users. I think we're not there yet on a lot of user experiences native to crypto. Just say like wallets overall. And like fees, and like there's a bunch of nuances where like we still need to like do a lot of work to make the whole experience seamless. I can tell you, like we've been talking, and we're talking to some of the largest publishers in the industry, and like and they know it's there. They know it's there. They're just like watching and seeing like how can they really roll this out. I think the true, again, like the real use case here is around like real ownership. And that's like, there's nuances there as well. Cause like, a lot of NFTs actually, in the industry, what is actually stored on chain is like a pointer to like some metadata off chain, right? So it's like, it's not even there. But so that's also like, there's nuances of it. It's like, it's like, oh, we're putting something on chain, okay, but like what are you putting? So if we start with the assumption that all of these things are done properly, then I think as like us in-game assets they represent value. Value meaning people spending time on leveling up characters, in acquiring new skills, in acquiring new skins. I think all of that stuff is very powerful. There's still a lot of big gap to bridge with in terms of education with like the traditional gamers, because all they is crypto equals FTX. So that's what it is at the moment, and yeah, it's a long path for us. But I think we can crack it if either we introduce crypto in a very delicate way and almost like as people will not realize it. And that can be done, in my opinion, again, through casual games. Or we have a super big title and a crazy game, like a fun game, an actually fun game that rolls out some crypto features. I think that's when and how we crack the nut.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think the entire Web3 space has this very large branding issue behind it, especially like you mentioned, people just correlate FTX and blockchains. Blockchain equals scam. And that's kind of just the thought process that they have within their heads. So yeah, I mean, the entire Web3 space does have a lot to offer, but there is still a pretty big branding issue for kind of the general public, which leads to a very high ceiling for adoption.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
big
actually
problem, man. Like when we were working with Unity to roll out this SDK, they actually took some time to reflect. It was like a couple of months amid the FTX situation. And then, of course, they're very smart people, and they acknowledge the whole benefit of the industry and whatnot. But like these things are like they just make our lives harder. So there's definitely a lot of housekeeping we gotta do as an industry. And sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're good. That's awesome. Now, I actually want to pull us a little bit further back to a conversation we had just like a couple minutes ago, and you had actually talked about developers making the choice to put some stuff on chain, keep other things off chain, and you also kind of mentioned like ownership and stuff. Now, I mean, it's a pretty common consensus that people want to own sort of their in-game assets, and that's a pretty common thing to put on chain. But are there other things that you think would benefit from being on chain within a gaming environment?
Um, yeah, I mean, you could theoretically put parts of the game on chain in the sense that like they become transparent and open, and everybody can see what's going on. So that that's just don't release an update that takes out of the whole game like certain assets, I guess. Like there's some people that like preach for entire games run on a blockchain in the sense of sort of like the graphics and rendering and all of that stuff, but I don't know, maybe, sure. I don't see like a direct benefit, like a huge benefit for it. It might not be a bad idea, but also like you can do that on like a centralized database, I guess, and like just normal Web2 stuff. So I really don't know if that's the key. I think we gotta take small yet important steps and like just nail down one use case that really makes us make the leap, and then we can start playing around with other stuff. But we are not there yet. So again, that's why we have to go. We have to be very well organized overall as an industry. I feel there's still a lot of hype and fun, let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. I think we just need to be more focused on what really matters.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think sort of having that sort of focus on ensuring there's one direct, really reasonable use case is something we really need to kind of nail down first.
Yeah, and onboard users. That's priority number one as an industry. And overall, yeah, come to an agreement. Also, like what are the value added that we're bringing overall to the world? Because this going on a tangent, but just overall seeing what's going on politically here in the United States. I like at consensus. One of the representatives that were there, I'm not recalling the name honestly, but she said that she's an advocate to the industry, But she said, like, I can be your advocate. I'm more than happy to be your advocate. You just let me know what your use cases are here, what benefit you're bringing to the world, and then I can make a case for you. So the outside world has not figured that out yet. I would argue that maybe we haven't figured it out yet either. But we have to put our ducks in a row and then like just make sure that like we can achieve something. And so and I think and one of the things that we need to achieve is definitely traction beyond speculation. And when I say that, it means like having actual users using like decentralized applications that include games as well. The numbers are not really nice now. There's the average users using decentralized applications last year was around like 2 million on average, and that was like peak of the hype. I mean, between 2021 and 2022, I guess, but that's nothing. Like 2 million users is literally nothing. So we gotta take that extra step, and then we can try to like expand and like be more creative, and try out new things. But we still have to like validate what we're doing here.
So yeah, I mean, there again, this I don't want this conversation to turn into Web3 reputation. I feel like we've beat that horse enough. I don't know if that's the saying, but anyway,
I agree.
when as you speak, with AAA games, they don't have to be too concerned about, oh, my players aren't owning their assets. Like Epic Games isn't thinking about the fact that when people play around a Fortnite, that the wood that they collect isn't collected to their wallet. But what do you think is the value add that they see from this technology? Like that's worth, maybe staking the reputation on stuff that might not, or like risky assets like crypto, and just generally reputational risk. But what do you think is the value add for these AAA companies when they look at blockchains and so on?
I think honestly, the honest answer to that is like on from their pure like selfish perspective, not much. Why? Because these people are printing money. Like they already run a very 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 profitable business model. So why would they change to something riskier? And like way more uncertain. Well, the answer to that is their user base makes a big push and asks for certain features to be implemented in their favorite games. So that's how, and I think like they get it, and they understand it. And there's a track record of like multiple quote unquote scandals of like publishers doing things that like their user base didn't like, again discontinuing maybe certain weapons that people spend like hundreds of hours leveling up, pushing out like centralized stuff, right? But as for now, purely from like a business perspective, the switch is not there for them yet. So again, like I think a lot of it goes through educating people around the benefit of this, and of course, education goes also through like products, right? So like you try out new products, new games, you like them, you see there's not much difference on that, but the difference here is very idealistic. The like have the ownership of their assets, I guess, is like sure it's great, but like honestly the average person doesn't really care about it. It would embrace it if it was given to him or her in a very easy way, but again we're not there yet in terms of like delivering like an authentic and like amazing user experience. So that's how I see it.
So you've kind of spoken a little bit about, this sort of gap in delivering this authentic, user experience and stuff. So if someone were to be considering, like, let's say, a publisher or a company is considering, hey, we're going to break into Web3 gaming space, what should they kind of look out for? What are some things that, you see Web3 games doing right? What are some pitfalls you see these Web3 games have that kind of just becomes their demise? What should really just entrants breaking into the Web3 gaming space consider?
I think like I think as an industry we're certainly doing some things right. It's just working overall, like some is getting involved, trying out new things. But it's a lot. Again, there's a lot of house. Like for example, on my side, I just don't see the value of like building a game on Ethereum, right? And yet there's a lot of like gaming studios that are doing so. And I personally think they're gonna get burned. And I think this might set us backward. Then you can argue, you can use layer twos, but even there, like it's not, some of these layer twos are like still not very efficient overall. Like I don't know if you guys use them, but like we're still talking about like a few bucks to like swap. I was actually using Starkware before, and like I just swapped some ETH for USDC, and it cost me like 2.80. I think $2.80 is like, okay, it's not like $40 like on ETH, but like it's still a bunch of money. So I guess it's also our job as like, as Algorand, and like, there's not just Algorand. Like I acknowledge there's like, several other like very good, solid projects out there. But on my side, I'm definitely an advocate for like, more performing layer ones rather than like, the like Ethereum and then layer twos on Ethereum. I think the bunch of layer ones out there that are serious and they're actually doing some work. They came out late, so they missed some years of like core development, both on like the core protocol, the infrastructure level, validators and whatnot. But I think we can get there. So it's on our side. And I guess the ball is in our court on that side to convince publishers and big names that like that is the way if they really want to embrace crypto. I'm a firm believer of that. Then let's see maybe these layer twos are gonna actually work, but I'm pretty skeptical.
So, what exactly are they doing right? Like, what makes them so successful?
The layer twos, you mean?
Sorry, no, the Web3 games that are currently like succeeding, they're at the very top. Like what are they doing right? How are they successful?
I mean, I would argue in wait, you mean the Web 2 games or the current Web 3 games that are successful?
The current Web3 games that are successful.
So yeah, I would argue we're not there yet. Into like I would just like if you can point me to like a really successful web game, then like I'd be happy. And when I say successful, I mean in like Web 2 terms. I mean in dozens of millions of players, hundreds if not of millions of players, hundreds of millions of like real value being transferred, and not just like just dropped 95% over like a week. So I think we've not seen like the full success yet. I think there's still a long way to go, and mainly also because like to make a game and to build a game, it takes a long time. So it's like especially like mid-core, hardcore, like AA, AAA games, like it takes years and a lot of money. So I think we'll start seeing like real success. Maybe in the next year or so, some of the games will roll out. Also on Algorand, there's several launching, and I'm very excited about them. But there's still a long way. Like I don't think we're there yet, to be honest. So they're successful. Some of them they're successful in crypto terms, but definitely not in like Web 2 terms.
We definitely do have a long way to go with improving efficiency and improving in general the quality of Web3 games. But one thing that crypto, NFTs, and in general the space has done extremely well is building communities. How do you see our way of community building, which is through token incentivization, which is through governance and DAOs and all of that? How do you see that impacting the game economy, if at all?
Oh, I think that's one of the things that we definitely need. I think the way we build communities, the way we engage communities, it's unparalleled. I would argue though, we're going. I guess it's a wrong term, but like The as well, the gaming industry as well is, very strong communities. But that is, I think it's a plus and a benefit because there's a lot of like overlaps and similarities. And actually a lot of, crypto people are actually hardcore gamers as well. So it's, I think we're there. So that's something like the gaming industry, I think, definitely sees, and it's something that we can leverage. But again, it has to be like organic and healthy community building, not like we're pumping a token and the community, quote unquote, is people engaging just because they hold a token or an NFT, right? There has to be like the human. But I think it's great, man. Like I can, there's this example like this team building a game on Algorand. They're actually being, gaming forever together for like 12 years, and they first met in real life at NFT NYC. I think that's very powerful. And it show, and like they were gaming for 12 years and never met in person, and built a very strong bond. But then through they actually met in person. So I think that's validation right there. So yeah, I think that's a strength we can leverage. On the governance side, there's a whole different, and broader argument to be made, I guess, especially if we're talking about like on-chain governance and like what people are actually governing. But I think the key here is engagement. And I think we're second to nobody in terms of like engagement within the crypto community.
Yeah, I think it's really intriguing that you mentioned that, these guys have literally been gaming for 12 years and they just recently, a few years ago, first saw each other. I think in Web3 community is incredibly strong, very similar to the gaming community. I actually literally respond to Null Penguin as my second name now, and a lot of my friends as well respond to their gamer tags. Yeah, it's very much an extension of your identity. That's super cool. And you said they're building a game on Algorand, or?
Fractal Monsters, battle monster game. It's like kind of like Tamagotchi experience as well, because like you can you evolve and maintain and breed your monster, and it's pretty cool. I would definitely recommend to check it out. And just overall, if you guys are interested in just keeping up with everything that is going on in the gaming ecosystem, I recommend you join the Cool Down group. They have a very, very good newsletter that goes out every week. Just like, hop in their Discord. That's again, like going back to like engagement and community. The community is awesome. So any question you might have, or just like for updates, and if you want to try some of the games on Algorand, that's a great source of truth, I would say.
That's awesome, Piggy. Also, just like as a bit of a question that we initially wanted to start off with, but we didn't get a chance to, but outside of Web3 gaming, which has apparently consumed our lives right now, or just Web3 in general, what has been your favorite game growing up, one that maybe you'd like to see with decentralized technology and NFTs and all the fun stuff?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, I played a lot of Kingdom Hearts growing up. I don't know if any of you guys played it. But honestly, I was just like mainly for just the storytelling and the narratives. I wouldn't say that one is the one necessarily on chain. I definitely would say FIFA, because like that's probably the game I played the most in my life. And especially, it's anytime like I talk to somebody that doesn't really know much about crypto, and then like, when I bring up the whole gaming side of things, the example I make is always like the Ultimate Team, like the FIFA Ultimate Team. It's like you're collecting these players in this month, and then FIFA drops the new game, and you gotta start all over again. So that's the transition of value. I think it's the example I always make. So definitely seeing FIFA there would be great. And actually, as with Algorand, we work with FIFA more on the memorabilia side of things. There's the whole FIFA Plus experience. So pretty much I can be a top shot, but go check out. They just released some new So to make the whole experience more entertaining and interactive. So hopefully we can crack that now. That would definitely be a dream for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually grew up playing soccer for like 14 years, and it definitely is,
There you go.
or football, sorry. It definitely is the
I,
most
I was
popular sport in the
I,
world.
I was gonna say you called it soccer, and I don't
I'm an
know.
I'm an ignorant American, my bad.
I
No, no.
all my friends were football fans, and they kind of bullied me into, if I ever said soccer, they kind of just booted me from the group chat. So yeah, I learned my lesson.
There you go. There you go. Well, actually, but in the US, football is growing a lot, so I'm actually very happy to see that. So yeah, overall, and FIFA also. Like I played with people here as well, and like it's a pretty fairly popular game. I mean, in Europe, it's just like what everybody plays. But seeing here that like people are like just picking it up more, I think it's great to see.
Yeah, New York Red Bulls don't do that bad. I went for a game and I thought it was pretty funny, but
There you go.
they're actually pretty good. Yeah.
Nice.
Um,
Awesome. Well, I think that's kind of all we have at the moment here. Just want to say thank you so much for hopping on the Twitter space, and I think Alexis from Blockchain Restoration Foundation has something to say.
Yes, thank you so much, PG, Akil, and Danish for the talk. I just have a quick question for PG. Do you have any resources for students or things they should check out if they want to get more involved in Web3 gaming?
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple of like I guess like collectives or like organizations that you definitely want to check out. One is it's called BGA, the Blockchain Gaming Alliance. We're partnered with them. They do awesome work. They work with like a lot of different projects in the industry, different protocols as well. So definitely great way to keep up with what's going on overall in the Web3 gaming space, I guess, but also like a great, first step. And they're, very, very outgoing people, just like very, very open. So just like ping them, reach out, they'll help you out. And then I guess like if you see a project that you like, just get involved. Again, like start from the community side of things. That's definitely always the first step. Get involved up in their Discord, see what they're doing. And there's a lot of like alphas and betas out there right now. So just like try out some new cool games, give feedback. That's great. And also like I would say like at the student club level, also this can maybe kind of like a recommendation for you guys is like there's work with like gaming student clubs. There's a lot of them, and they're actually very strong clubs. So that could be like a great another great step, and you can also be the one that like bridge the gap between the two industries, right? So if you're part of your blockchain club, go check out some of the gaming clubs events. I think that's another great way to get involved. And I guess to
All
Akil
right.
and Anish, like organize more events with them as well.
yeah, definitely. That's on our agenda for next semester. Actually, I saw Anna Lee here from Herdao, and she does a lot. She does a lot for gaming. Actually, we've been speaking for gaming events next semester. So definitely.
Nice.
Oh, 100%. And same here, like with UCI basically being one of the best collegiate esports teams. I mean, it's inevitable. We've had a few meetups kind of around that entire, gaming Web3 kind of intersegment, but definitely down the pipeline for a lot more next academic school year.
I
Right
bet I
on,
could
right
take
on.
you. I bet NYU could take you, Anish.
Oh.
Oh, okay. All right. Web3 gaming tournament. Let's get it on. Let's do it.
Uh,
Dark Forest Royale. It'll be UCI DAO versus NYU DAO. I see it.
no, I love it.
we have a bunch of sweaty League of Legends, Valorant, Overwatch players, man. We'll sweep the floor with you any day. I'm sorry.
All right. But yeah, thank you so much, Fiji. Really appreciate speaking with you, and I
My
definitely learned a
pleasure,
lot.
guys. Anytime, and come in for any other events that you guys are planning. Always happy to help. Definitely, reach out to Alexis for any help, and thanks, Alexis, for hosting this. And yeah, and enjoy the rest of the day, and and try out some cool Algorand games.